All right. Welcome back to another Footy Thoughts recording. Tuesday, September 26th. We are Footy Thoughts at Footy Thoughts, Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. Got it right again, finally.
No Instagram.
Maybe.
For now.
Not yet. Oh. We'll get right into it. We'll be talking about game week 5, previewing game week 6, a little FPL, a little betting. But we will start off with some suspensions, some injury news, things like that. And we'll start with red cards. A guy I had never heard of before the game.
Good player, actually.
Bellegarde. Good player, of course he is. Let me guess, he's like 19, 20?
He's pretty young. U21, I'm pretty sure.
All right, whatever. 4 Wolves, straight red card. I did see the tackle, though. A Luton player was made a late tackle on him. He was laying down on the ground, and basically he threw a little tantrum because the Luton player wouldn't get off of him and gave him a stud right to the side. So, very deserved red card. Another deserved red card was Rodri for City.
Young lad. Yeah.
Rodri's red card. Did you see that?
I did not, no.
This was right after halftime. They go out, and him and Gibbs White, I believe, get into a tackle, and Rodri puts both of his hands around Gibbs White's
classic
neck.
Spanish player.
Very classic. Red card, and he's like,
I didn't do it. What did I do?
So somehow City still got the win, but yeah, Rodri, another deserved red card. I didn't see Gusto's red card. Did you happen to catch that?
No, I did not. I didn't watch much soccer this weekend, unfortunately. I wasn't able to.
Look at you being a normal human.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. I'm assuming another deserved red card for being straight. And then we have Nicholas Jackson, everyone's fan favorite FPL asset, getting a yellow card accumulation. So he will also miss this next game for Chelsea coming up. Besides that, no other suspensions to talk about. We can go ahead and move on into the injuries. Not really I don't say big player, but Nuno Tavares, a key player for Forest. He had to retire early from the game. It looked like he had pulled his groin going in for a tackle. You've got Declan Rice, who was subbed at halftime, and we'll talk more about that in the North London derby. This is what I'm seeing on Twitter, too. We've got some Saka injuries popping up, and then another person who had to be subbed out early was Brennan Johnson for a hamstring injury. I felt like players were going down left and right in that game. There are a lot of heavy tackles in that. Obviously, it's a big rivalry, but Brennan, who got a surprise start in the first place, you could see in the replay chasing after, I forget whoever it was, starts doing that little wobble, touching his hamstring, and then sits down, and I'm just screaming at the TV.
Did he twerk afterwards?
No, he did not twerk. I wish he had twerked. I'm just screaming at the TV because Arsenal are basically counterattacking.
Just, fakes, pulls their hamstring, and then twerks a second, and then keeps running.
I saw Travis Kelce do that, but I can't remember the other. There's another NFL player who did that. Or no, it was the female soccer player. She scored, ran over the corner flag, pretending to grab her hamstring, and then just started
There was
twerking.
Another NFL player that did that recently, though. Who was it? It was kind of a random touchdown score. I'm like, bro, you can't.
I see Tyreek.
You can't have that exorbitant of a celebration. This is like your first touchdown in your career, so.
Anyways, I started that, so it's my fault. Back to it. The last big injury we can talk about is Harvey Barnes for Newcastle, who was super unlucky to get injured that early in the game for them to go on and score 8 goals. But he, nothing confirmed. We know it's his foot, but what is confirmed is it should be a long-term injury. The exact details, not sure. So just to kind of throw in a little FPL talk, good chance for Anthony Gordon to cement his place in the Newcastle starting lineup moving forward.
Yellow cards.
Yeah, he's also 1 yellow card. I do know that. He's 1 yellow card away from getting suspended already.
Mm-hmm. He's a yellow card menace, baby. He always has been.
Evertonian legend right there. All right. We're going to have to get used to these kind of, shorter, smaller suspension and news segments just because we don't have any transfers to talk about. And I bet we'll have some more injury news later in this week after all these EFL Cup games. But we can move on to game week 5 review and takeaway. We kind of talked about the injuries in that North London derby game, but I would like to talk about how impressive my Spurs looked. Were you able to watch that game at least, or were you still too busy?
Did I watch the Spurs game?
Sounds like you were too busy.
No, I did. I did not watch the Spurs game.
Damn.
I didn't watch much soccer at all this
I'll say
weekend,
you didn't watch
unfortunately.
any soccer then. Did you at least watch
Very
Everton win?
unfortunate. I did watch Everton win, yes.
Okay. I'm sure you had your phone out for that.
Yes, I did.
All right. Well, I'll just cover this. Was very not relaxed, but I was very calm entering that game just because I had plenty of spin zones to tell myself if we did get demolished in that game, like, oh, brand new manager, early season, new team, a lot of young kids. But at halftime, I was super stoked to see where we had been. Overall, 2-2 game with their goals coming from a deflection, OG, that was going out, and then a penalty, which was a rightfully called penalty in my eye, but still, we didn't allow. I'm going to call it an open play goal just because it was an own goal, but it didn't come from some great piece of work by Arsenal. So very promising from Tottenham. We had a great run from James Maddison. Oh, hold on. I'll get to that in a sec. Saka doing his dart celebration. Did you at least see that?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God, you're killing me.
I'm so uneducated this weekend. I'm sorry.
James Madison's celebration is throwing the dart. And I'm sure you've seen that whenever he scores, he goes into the corner, throws a dart. Saka scored that OG, goes to the corner, throws a dart. After his penalty, throws a dart. So he said that him and Madison were having some beef in the England camp a few weeks ago before that. In James Madison's post-match interview, he goes, oh, I heard Saka did my celebration. Maybe he was still doing the celebration when I turned him for my first goal, which was pretty sick to hear. But anyways, we had the Madison to Son combination both times. Overall, very exciting stuff for Tottenham. They have a big game this weekend against Liverpool. We'll talk about that in our game week 6 preview. Very exciting stuff for us. Now we can move on to Newcastle and basically say welcome back. Welcome back.
Welcome back, Newcastle. I mean, it's
year.
Sheffield lads. It's Sheffield lads. Sure, you can make
We've
that
said
argument.
That before.
Yeah, it's Sheffield, but still, there's a lot to talk about here because this was the same Newcastle that we saw beat and absolutely batter and annihilate with no remorse Tottenham last year.
All right.
This was the Newcastle where Trippier was putting in absolutely perfect, gnarly looking set piece balls. Sheffield had, what'd you say, 12 or 14 or something fouls committed.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much most of those were near or around the final third, their own final third. So Trippier had a field day. As you'll notice, Botman got a goal. Dan Burn got a goal. Trippier had 3 assists. This all makes sense if you understand that Newcastle had most of the possession inside of Sheffield's final third, and Trippier was just sending in quality balls all game. That's pretty much how the game ended. Unfortunate for Harvey Barnes. It makes a lot of way for Anthony Gordon, who had a goal and an assist and actually looked really good against Sheffield. Again, we can say it again. It's Sheffield lads. However, Newcastle seems to be a pretty streaky team. They have streaky players like Almiron, like Callum Wilson, Anthony Gordon. I would even argue is a pretty streaky player as well. This could be the start. That is a massive win. I mean, they just shit on Sheffield. So it's one of those things where Newcastle is probably going to look pretty good, and they have a lot of fixtures coming up. They've got EFL Cup. They've got a big one, I think, against City.
Remember we called it the rotate off.
Yeah. They're going to be rotating a lot, but they're deep enough now. I mean, Newcastle went in and spent even more money in this transfer window, and they're very deep now. So it's going to be one of those things where keep an eye on Newcastle. I will say from an FPL perspective, you need to have at least Trippier in your team, if not Trippier and Botman. I transferred Trippier in before this weekend, very luckily.
Same.
However, I will probably also be getting Botman in my team. I think it's important to have two Newcastle defenders right now.
Sure.
Either way, I mean, they just classically shit on him. Welcome back, Newcastle.
They do have a lot of fixtures coming up, but we talked about this last week, is that they do have very good Premier League fixtures coming up. They're one of those teams like Liverpool, who we'll talk about next, who have that fixture swing. So you saw a lot of people moving Chilwell out for Trippier, as well as people taking hits to get them in. Nick Pope probably not an asset, because it's these clean sheet plus attacking returns that makes Trippier so attractive, like he did last year.
It's the attacking returns too. And I do want to add one more thing. Last week, before this 8-0 win, we talked about how Newcastle has a very congested schedule coming up. When good teams have congested schedules like this, especially teams that have solid defenses, from a fantasy perspective, you want to be looking at the defenders. The defenders are very good assets when they have congested schedules because, one, they're not going to be rotated as much as the attackers, right? Like Isak and Callum Wilson, who the hell knows is going to start in any game over the next however long. But in these kind of schedules, when we get into Champions League and EFL Cup and Carabao Cup and all of these different things, the defenders will consistently start. And when they have big games in the Premier League, they're going to try to lock it down on the defense. And a lot of times you're going to see clean sheets. You're going to see 0-0s, 1-1s, or 1-0s, 2-0s. You're going to see a lot of low scoring, kind of boring clean sheet type of games. That's what happens when you have a congested schedule. So this just reiterates the point. Newcastle defensive assets. Same with Manchester City. Manchester City is going to keep keeping clean sheets, but their attack is going to continue to be rotated. All of the above.
I love that. All right, so we'll move on to Liverpool. I mentioned maybe a couple episodes ago that I'm keeping an eye on Liverpool because, like I just said, with Newcastle, they did have that fixture change. They've got 5 wins and 1 draw to start the Premier League. I don't think they've played any big teams. I know they played Newcastle, and I know they played Aston Villa, and that was back when we were doing Aston Villa just lost a key player at the beginning of the game. All momentum was lost. That's when they lost Diego Carlos in that game. But besides that, they drew Chelsea first game of the season, and it's been Bournemouth, Newcastle, Aston Villa, Wolves, and West Ham. So maybe it would have been wise to hop in early, but now they've kind of got this, not only like the rest of these teams like West Ham and all these Europe teams. I don't know why I started with West Ham out of all the European, out of all the Premier League teams in Europe. But they've got Tottenham, they've got Brighton, they've got Everton, which is it's not Everton, lads. It's always a very big game, that Merseyside derby, and they have these midweek games as well. So in that same vein of what Casey's talking about with Newcastle defensive assets, I don't think TAA is quite back yet, and even if he is, I don't expect him to be full fitness. Van Dijk and or Robertson are probably players to look out for. But just wanted to say Liverpool keep winning. They keep showing that they're able to do it. They got a great start to the season, kind of cushioned themselves for October, November months coming up, and we still don't like Salah. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, it's a weird one with Liverpool because Joey and I are in a position right now where neither of us were on Salah from a fantasy perspective at least, before the season. We thought he was too expensive. That was literally it. It's not like we think Salah is going to be magically a bad player or anything like that. He has underperformed a little bit, considering he used to be one of the best fantasy assets by far in the history of the game. So understandable. There's a high bar there. But it's one of those things where it's hard now because Liverpool keep winning and Salah keeps returning. So now it's one of those things where Joey and I are still, and we have data to back this up, that Salah is not performing at the same level that he used to perform at when he was getting number 1 in fantasy consistently. Now they keep winning and he keeps returning. And now it's at a point where it's like, okay, Should we get Salah in? Probably not, because this won't last. It's that sort of mentality that's really hard to come across or to overcome in an FPL type of thinking. It's really hard when you purposefully fade a player or not have them because you don't think they're going to perform as well, and then they do, but then they do it for so long that you're like, it's got to slow down now, right? Like it's it's at
Exactly.
that point where it's like Liverpool can't keep this up, can they? They're undefeated. They've only got one draw. The rest are wins in the Premier League. It's tough. It's a really tough situation. If Salah were priced 1 mil, 1.5 mil lower, he would be in my team. But 12 and a half was just too much for me when I knew that his production, I think, was going to lower a little bit. So it's just tough. They do have a pretty hard run of fixtures, like not only their Premier League games, Tottenham, Brighton, Everton, and then you have Forest and Luton and Brentford. So that's pretty nice. But in between those are EFL Cup versus Leicester, which is not an easy fixture. Europa League versus Union Saint Golaisi, who is probably butchered that, but who is also a very good team that locks it down. They don't have easy fixtures coming up, so it's such a hard situation. If you're trying to choose what type of Liverpool asset to buy into or anything like that, good luck. It's so hard with that team. So that's my final thoughts there.
Yeah. We can hop back into that when we talk about Nunez later on in our little FPL talk. We can move on to we don't spend a lot of time talking about this because we talk about it every single week, but Chelsea keep losing
Yeah.
over and over and over. We did
Rebuild.
like Aston
They're in the
Villa.
rebuild.
Yeah. And that's what, honestly, Poch said that in his quotes after the game and might even been before the game too. But they keep benching Chilwell. It's 2 straight weeks of him being benched. They play Modric over him, and I'm pretty sure even both games he's been subbed off in the 60th minute, so it's been failed attempts. We mentioned the Gusto red card. We mentioned the Jackson yellow card accumulation. Something we can talk about is us being 100% right on Raheem Sterling and fading that.
Well,
so
you being right on that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
To be fair, though, I was not a Sterling fan from the beginning of the season. However, I did make a hot take now that I think about it. When he looked very good against Luton Town. And then I was
Luton
like,
Town.
You know what? This is going to be Sterling's going to prove everyone. You know what? I'm going to stand by my thoughts a little bit and say Chelsea will catch form at some point. I think Nkunku is going to have a huge role in that. Chelsea will figure their shit out. So 2025. Chelsea will figure their shit out
in 2024.
Really? It's going to be that long?
They said he's out till December,
God,
or at least
so sad.
Yeah.
Either way, I think Chelsea at some point in this entire season long will catch some form at some point, and I think Sterling is going to be heavily involved in that. But that's
gross.
Yeah.
I'll correct myself. FedMob says early November 2023. So, but maybe that's not full fitness.
I think he'll be back by
back.
Christmas. I think he'll be back by Christmas and playing 90 by Christmas.
I do want to shout out Robert Sanchez, though, the goalie.
Good goalie.
Big saves, a lot of saves making. He has the clear number one job behind or in front of Jordy Petrovic, who will probably not see the field in any Premier League times unless there's a serious injury. But let's move on. Let's let Casey talk about Zerbi still being bald.
Huh. What a funny lineup this weekend, huh? Zerbi is balder than Pep at this point. And guess what? We said it game week 1. We said it preseason in this podcast that Brighton is going to be more rotate heavy than Manchester City and Pep ever dreamed of being. Yes, Pep rotates a lot. However, this Brighton team is so deep with fucking teenagers from random parts of the globe that you don't know who's going to start ever. And they're still going to win 4-0, 3-1, whatever. That's a mark of a good coach. Zerbi is a very, very good coach. However, Danny Welbeck started at the number 10. While we've been hearing that Ferguson was going to be trained to be a 10, and he started at the 9, while Danny Welbeck started at the 10. And guess what? It didn't work out. Neither of them looked very good in those positions at all. However, it doesn't matter because he just subbed Matoma on and he got a brace and man of the match. So
Yeah,
that's
you
all you got
just
to
sub
do
on
when you're
Matoma
an
and
FD.
Fati in the 45th minute. You just sub them on.
Yeah, that's all you got to do. It's tough. We are learning very much so that there are no nailed Brighton assets. Matoma's probably
Besides
the
who?
best one in
They're
the group,
defenders.
besides Estupinian, besides Lewis Dunk.
Mm-hmm.
Those are, I mean, you might already have one of those in your team, at least Estupinian, but still. Brighton's still looking really good, man. It's crazy. They're so deep. It's just they are truly the definition of on the up and up. Like really, and it's all about their scouting. And I'll keep harping on this. They have the best scouting network and the best scouts in the world. They do. Not Manchester City, not Man United, not Real Madrid, none of those. Brighton has the best scouting department in the world right now, and it is paying absolute dividends. I took courses in scouting. I've always been super into it. I just want to put that out there because I like to harp on it because it has its place in the soccer world. Yeah, you can find those players who, you know, are 21 through 25 that have had a good couple of seasons that are maybe underrated, but finding those super young players with immense potential and making sure that they feel comfortable moving across the world to play for your club and then going on loan to a totally different country where they don't know the language. There's so much psychology that goes into scouting. Brighton has it down to a T and it's paying dividends. And that's what we're seeing now. So that's all I gotta say there. Brighton's wild to follow right now. It's really fun.
We're going to talk about their game later, or I guess we talk about it right now as we move on to game week 6 preview. We've got a lot of games on Saturday. I think we have 8 total, 6 of them during the 9 o'clock slate. But the one we want to talk about first is this Aston Villa at home to Brighton. It is the 6:30 kickoff. Casey and I like to say this game's so weird. We don't know what's going to happen. This one truly is that case. I'm a big fan of Villa at home. We've made the comment a bunch of times. As long as they don't have a big injury in the first 15 minutes, they look like a really good team, and they showed that against Chelsea this last game. I think their defense is good enough, is capable enough to hold up against Brighton's. I expect Brighton to have a lot of outside the box chances, if that makes sense. Like a lot of possession, a lot of not tiki-taka, but just kind of 1-2s around the box.
They're
not really
they're
a
not gonna
bunch
have a
of
ton
counter-attacking
like
opportunities.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Mm-hmm. And then with the Estupinian bombing forward, I expect Matty Cash to, if they get the chances, exploit that right-hand side and send crosses into Casey's favorite FPL asset, Ollie Watkins.
Oh my god. I finally transferred him out and he fucking scores a goal. I'm so mad.
No, but my money's on Villa here, assuming no season-ending injuries to their players in the first half or first 10 minutes. I think Brighton will be threatening, but I think this is a game that Villa can keep on. What am I looking to say? I think Villa keep the game plan to what they want, and Brighton have to play around their tactics and not play to their own, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Took a weird way to say that.
I think you're exactly right. This is a highly unpredictable game, in my opinion. It matters a lot that it's the early game on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
There are statistics and data that backs up early game trends that essentially support unders, that not many goals are scored. This is a game. My prediction here, and it's kind of weird. Either Aston Villa wins this game 1-0 or they tie 0-0, something extremely close and low scoring, or Brighton goes into halftime up 2-0 or 3-0. I feel as though there's no in between for this game. Again, this is a highly unpredictable game, but either this is a grind out where Brighton gets pretty unlucky and Emi Martinez has a very good game, or Brighton penetrates, scores within the first 15 minutes, scores 2 or 3 goals by halftime, 2 or 3 by halftime, and the game kind of ends with that kind of tone to it.
So I think we're on the same kind of wavelength of it's like if like Villa can go into this game with a game plan and stick to it, they'll get that grindy, 1-0.
Yeah.
And with Brighton getting chances, but them being very low XG chances. So
Yeah.
And you're exactly right about the 6:30 game too. So if you want to captain a player in this game in FPL, I would highly advise against it. It's always it's just the rule. It's just like how Casey and I have our system play with +1 home dogs. You just don't captain the first player or the player in the first game of the game week.
Saturday morning.
At 6:30. A lot of ifs there.
Or Saturday afternoon if you're listening from the UK.
Shut up. I'll let you get a little spieling on Everton Luton Town because I am happy to see my friend have a team that is supporting a team that could possibly have back-to-back wins.
Yeah. This is a must-win game. This not to be too dramatic, this game literally decides the fate of the world. No, but actually though, this is a must-get 3 points. And the most classic Everton fashion, we will somehow draw or lose with a goal coming from.
This.
No, this is what happens. This is a pattern. There's data behind it, and it pisses me off. We can pull out wins against Arsenal and against top 6 teams where we go to Chelsea and draw them 2-2 and anything like that. But when it comes to a home game versus a relegation candidate, we can't fucking seem to do a thing. And it's a historical pattern with Everton, and it's a trend. So it's hard if we do not get 3 points from this game with both Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who is back to goal scoring form, scoring a great goal, Beto, who has looked really good, unfortunate not to score as many goals as he has. Actually don't think he's scored one yet. Maybe he has. I can't really remember. I know he scored in like EFL Cup and everything.
Yeah, not the Premier League now.
If we still cannot score with all the good moves that we made, Beto, Danjuma has looked really good, even off the bench. DCL is back and in goal scoring form. If we do not win this game, we're back to where I guess we were before.
Back to where you were one game ago.
We were back where we've been the past couple of years. So this is a must-win game. This is an absolute must-win game. There's not much more to say about it. We're fully healthy. We have all the players that we need to get a win here, and my prediction is that Everton is going to have 7 big chances created, 6 big chances missed, and we're going to tie the game 1-1 with an OG in the 90th minute.
All right. I was going to ask you, when's the last time Everton was favored by a goal in a Premier League game, do you think?
Oh, God. The betting lines on this game actually make me want to puke. Do not bet on Everton, please. Please don't. Please don't.
Okay.
I don't feel good about
we'll move on. The last game we'll talk about is Tottenham-Liverpool. Even with me being a Tottenham fan, this is probably the biggest game, if not the biggest game of the week. I've already gave my Tottenham spiel about the Arsenal game. I will say this time I am going to be cocky going into this game. I said I wouldn't be cocky going into the Arsenal game, but Tottenham gave me plenty to be confident on, as well as all of our young guys. Udogie, Sarr. Basuma's not young, but this was his first North London derby with us. And Mickey Van de Ven too, even being, I forget, like 22, 23, showed a lot that I can support and that I can get behind. So I will be cocky going into this game. I fully expect us to hold the lead. I won't go full-blown cockiness to win, but I expect us to have a lead at some point in this game against Liverpool, which I think is a very realistic expectation to have. I'm excited to see Salah versus Udogie / Van de Ven matchup.
Udogie had Saka. Check his pockets after the game.
I was literally about to say that.
One singular Egyptian.
I would say he had Saka in his pocket for a little bit, even though Saka did have a good game. He did have a goal and assist, but I will say there was plenty of times where Udogi was backpedaling against soccer. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. And then next thing you know, like Udogi has the ball and running up the field with it too. I don't want to harp on Liverpool too much because we are going to talk about them in the FPL section. Of course, they're dangerous on their counters. Darwin Núñez is very speedy. And when speaking of streaky players, like we're talking about with Newcastle, he is the definition of a streaky player. So he got his goal last week. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets one against Tottenham. Prediction-wise, before the podcast, I wanted to bet an under just to be gross and basically. But I will say, I won't say 2-2 again. I will say 2-1 Tottenham.
I think 2-2 is right there. Yeah.
Well, I'm being a little bit more cocky now, so I'm not going to go for a draw, but I'm not going to say. Well, I guess I did predict us to win, but my main prediction is that we will have a lead at some point in this game.
3-1 either team.
Prediction to take.
3-1 either team.
Okay, that was our game week 6 preview. We will wrap this pod up with a little FPL talk, and then we'll finish it with our locks. But with FPL, not a big talking point besides maybe Carlton Morris, the striker for Luton Town. But Luton Town and Burnley have a double game week this week. They are making up their game from game week 2 when Luton Town just didn't have a stadium or their stadium ready to be played in yet. So their second game will be played on Tuesday. We talked about Newcastle defensive assets already, so I will kind of skip over that. But just wanted to bring Son and Madison back up. I mentioned last week that this was kind of a big test, these 2 games for us. I really regret not having either of them in my FPL team. However, it was good to watch and cheer like very excitedly that, I only have Madison. Like I need Madison to score. Instead, like I got to cheer Madison's sick pass to Son to tie the game up rather than being a little nitpicky on, I only got a Madison assist. I knew I should have brought in Son. So what I'll get to is that those players are both great players to have in their team. Son seems to be the in and out striker moving forward. That was a topic that Casey and I had discussed 2 episodes ago. He may not be effective every game, but it seems like he has that striker role all to himself. Anything you want to add on?
The only thing I will add is that it's a big secret who's going to take pens for Tottenham, because they haven't really gotten a pen. It's Son. Son is on pens for Tottenham.
Oh, yeah.
He deserves it. He should get it. If it were any other player, I would be highly surprised and I'd feel really bad for the man. Son's on pens too. He is a great fantasy asset right now. Absolutely. That's the only thing I have to add to that.
All right. Back to the Liverpool talk, but I wanted to mention Núñez again. He's a good transfer target to look at. As we mentioned earlier, they have good fixtures coming up. But more importantly, he's playing a lot more of the game rather than getting subbed out in that 65th minute. He's playing a lot more. In this last game against West Ham, he played 80 minutes, had 3 shots, 2 shots on goal. Another transfer target I want to talk about too is Jared Bowen as well. If you're feeling real frisky, James Ward-Prowse.
West Ham's good, guys. West Ham's very good.
More importantly, they play Sheffield this week, and we just saw set piece specialist Kieran Trippier tear them apart. West Ham are the better team. They're going to dominate possession in their box. You'll see very similar fouls and very similar dangerous set pieces come in from James Ward-Prowse. So that should be a player to look out for.
Yep.
Anyone else
Anthony Gordon. Let's talk. Newcastle assets, people. I mean, Trippier, and then if you're gonna add an attacker, which I would normally say is pretty risky because they're gonna have a lot of rotation with their fixtures, but considering this Harvey Barnes injury that happened recently, Anthony Gordon, I actually do think is a pretty damn good asset. You can't go wrong with either Callum Wilson or Isak. They will both score goals. If you're trying to guess which one's going to be better than the other, good luck, because it's not going to happen. 50-50 between both of them. They're both going to split minutes. They're both going to split starts. Don't get in this total like wacko head about which one is going to do better. You don't know. Nobody knows. They're going to split time. Both of them are great assets as well. You need to have at least one defender, Newcastle defender in your team.
Mhm.
Do it. I know Trippier is expensive. He's 6.7 now or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
But either way, you need to have at least one. If you're going to go the cheap route, get Botman. He's a good asset at this point. And then continuing, Aston Villa they have a congested schedule. They're in EFL Cup. They've got Europa Conference League going on. They're going to be traveling to different parts of Europe. Doesn't matter. Aston Villa has good assets and they have great fixtures coming up. Moussa Diaby, he was our preseason shout over here. He is a great player. It was my preseason shout. He will continue being involved in this attack. Ollie Watkins, I don't know what to say on him. He's not on pens anymore. He got 5 assists in the first 5 games, and then I dropped him, and he scored a goal finally. I don't know what to say on Ollie Watkins. I don't know why Douglas Luiz is taking penalties now. Either way, Moussa Diaby is the one you should be looking at. He is that one guy. We have 10 to 12 different 6.5 to 7 midfielders that are absolutely amazing for FPL right now. Reminder, you should be playing with 5 people in your midfield. 3-5-2, 4-5-1, however you want to do it. You should have 5 midfielders. There's so many good options in the midfield. If you want to win your mini leagues, you got to have 5 midfielders. You got to do your research and try to pick the best kind of sneakers like Moussa Diaby would be. It's kind of my spiel. I got you.
I was going to end it with this. I actually said this might have been a few weeks ago, that just because of these new stoppage time rules, you don't need your player to start for them to have a good return.
Yeah.
For example,
true.
Lucky with the Gordon result with Harvey Barnes being injured, but Matoma being subbed on at halftime. That is probably the most expensive, or not expensive, the most popular 6.5 mid. He didn't start. Brighton were playing bad. He got subbed on. He got 45 plus 5-10 minutes of stoppage time, almost 60 minutes. Got the brace. So
even with Darwin too. Darwin doesn't start a lot, but he'll come off the bench and he'll score. We're starting to learn that starting positions with these highly efficient attacking asset teams, you can't care about it. You can't care if they're not going to start anymore. Callum Wilson versus Isak. We don't know. They're both going to keep scoring goals. And in the past, this actually used to be a really big deal. This used to be a big deal. Who has the starting position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Soccer is transforming and FPL is transforming in a very unique way where that doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah. I did want to bring up the Barnes injury. Jacob Murphy started at left wing in the Champions League, so he may be Anthony Gordon's only rotation issue. I know we've seen Joe Ellington at left wing, so maybe just keep an eye out on that Champions League lineup, or I guess their EFL Cup lineup this week, and then Champions League lineup moving forward. But that was our FPL talk. We will quickly wrap it up with the betting recap. I lost again. I had the over 3 in the Burnley Manchester United game. That game ended 1-0 to United. Casey, red hot, 2 straight wins, both betting on Everton, this time with Everton plus 0.5 away to Brentford. They got a 3-1 win. So, Casey, why don't you start with your lock?
Okay. My lock this week is going to be West Ham. West Ham all the way. They're at home to Sheffield United. I'm taking their spread. Their -1 is at -125 right now. So that is going to shoot up in value. So this is kind of one of those quote-unquote sharp plays where you're not going to get the same value as you do today. West Ham -1. They've got a congested schedule, but they're deep now. They've made great signings. James Ward-Prowse is incredible on the set pieces. Sheffield is going to hack the shit out of them the entire game in their own third, and JWP is going to send in some gnarly free kicks. I think West Ham win this game with at least 3 goals scored. -1 West Ham.
Okay, all right. I'm going back to the drawing board with mine. I've got City spread -1.5 away to Wolves. Just going with a good team here, not trying to get cute. I do have a little bit of data They have covered 1.5 in this head-to-head matchup away 3 straight times as well. Overall, they have covered that in 4 of their last 5 matchups. Obviously, we know plenty about City. They're a very popular team, but I will take City minus 1.5 versus Wolves. That's my lock.
Safe pick. Good pick.
Yeah. You have any shout outs you want to do?
Yeah. So this weekend, I remember it was either last weekend or a couple weekends ago where the EPL betting slate, the lines and the matchups were disgusting. And it was one of those weekends where you just shouldn't bet on soccer, or at least on EPL soccer. This weekend is entirely the opposite. I think this weekend has so much betting value. So if you are looking to bet on soccer this weekend, this is a great weekend to do so. I want to give a shout out to Bournemouth +1 home dogs. This is a system play. This is a consistently high ROI type of line. I know it's Bournemouth and they're not that good, and Arsenal is very good, right? That's how you look at these games. But it's different when you're at home and there's injuries that become involved and there's congested schedules that become involved. Declan Rice could potentially be injured. He probably won't play midweek in Arsenal's midweek game. He may not play against Bournemouth. I know this is kind of a homer opinion of mine, but Tyler Adams is now available and healthy for Bournemouth. He'll probably come off the bench or at least make an appearance midweek. I believe they play in an EFL Cup game either tomorrow or Wednesday. And then he'll probably start over the weekend against Arsenal. That is a big player to have. And Declan Rice is a big player to be missing. We harp on it all the time. Center defensive mids are one of the most important assets in a soccer team. And if you're missing your best center defensive mid one game, you're probably not going to perform as well. And if you are adding a solid run you down engine type of CDM like Tyler Adams is, that is always great news for every single other player on the pitch. They are going to be like, oh my God, we have this guy in our team now. He's literally doing all of the work that we needed to do in the past. So Bournemouth is +1 right now against Arsenal. Shout out Son to score. It's +150 right now on my bookie. It's probably pretty consistently the same across all the other online bookies as well. I think my opinion here is that Liverpool is going to attack and they're going to keep a high line and they're going to be like Liverpool. They're going to play like Liverpool does. And that's when, and I want to concede, by the way, that Son last week or 2 weeks ago against Sheffield United, I was all in on Son to score. He's going to start a striker. He's going to score a goal. And Joey correctly advised me that Sheffield is going to play a low block, and that is when Son does not get his chances. And that was absolutely correct. Liverpool is not going to play like Sheffield United does, and they're going to keep a higher line, and Son is going to get in behind. He's going to have way better chances. I also have statistics here. In the last 5 games that Son has played in, head-to-head against Liverpool, he has scored 4 times. He has scored once in each 4 of his last 5 games against Liverpool. So shout out to Son to score. I also believe that is an excellent bet as well. Any shout outs for you, Joe?
No, I love it. I'm cooking in my head my 3-leg goal and assist parlay that I will not document because I have missed heavy every time.
Son, DCL.
Oh, that is gross. I had Decore staring me in my face last week, +200 goal and assist. As soon as I got the phone notification,
scored too.
I texted Casey. I'm like, "You're fucking me."
Yeah.
All right. Pretty good. I think everything's been covered. We've talked about what we wanted to talk about. Thank you guys for listening. If you've made it this far, we always try and keep it short. We always hit the 45-minute mark, so just get used to it. We'll never change.
Never
change. I'm Joey. This was Casey. Thank you for listening to Footy Thoughts. Follow us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify. Catch us next week. Peace.